Before I start, Mr. Chair, I'm going to send up pictures of Maverick. Maverick is still in our care and custody at this moment. And I do have the police report in reference to the present bite to the 3-year-old, and in pictures of Maverick that are in here.
Is there color photos?
Maverick is a 1.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old male German Shepherd, unneutered, black and tan. So on April 27, 2019, Animal Care and Control received a call from Police Communications that 3-year-old Lily Dempsey was bitten in the face by a German Shepherd named Maverick, owned by a Sarah Jones, at the Green Turtle at 3213 Solomon's Island Road in Edgewater for a car show event. Animal Care and Control Officer Johnson responded to 3213 Solomon's Island Road in Edgewater to meet with police on the scene to assess the incident. Officer Johnson and then the police responded to 19 Austin Drive and impounded Maverick for a quarantine due to a bite to the face to a child. Bite Officer Herbert contacted the victim's mother, Carrie Ann Mahan, about the bite incident and was advised that Lily went to attempt to pet the dog when it bit her in the face on the cheek below her right eye. Lily was treated at Arundel Medical Center with broken skin, no sutures. It was also advised that no one saw the incident. Officer Herbert, during the investigation, that Maverick was involved in another bite on July 22, 2018 to a 6-year-old Gavin Pavir of 198 Brittany Drive in Joppa, in which Gavin was bitten in the face while at the dog's owner's residence and was in the basement and turned, and Maverick jumped and caught his face. Gavin was seen at the emergency room and had a few sutures. No one witnessed this incident. On April 22nd, 2019, the owner, Miss Jones, was advised that her dog Maverick would be under quarantine for 10 days in public safety investigation. During the investigation, Officer Thomas, then spoke to the complainant and parent to the present victim, Mrs. Mahan. She advised that she and her co-worker, Sarah Jones, were working and even at an event, it's supposed to be say event, in the parking lot of the Green Turtle at 3213 Solomon's Island Road in Edgewater. Miss Jones brought her dog Maverick. Miss Mahan advised that she didn't see Maverick bite her daughter Lily, but saw her run covered in blood, running away from the dog. Lily was transported to Arundel Medical Center where her wound was cleaned, which was on her cheek, no sutures, however it was swollen. Ms. Mahan advised that she spoke to Tiffany Byans, another co-worker, and she told her that she was turned and did not see the incident. I asked Mrs. Jones to send in a statement. She sent it in and advised that on April 27, 2019 at approximately 11 o'clock, she and her fiance, Christopher Meadows, and her 4-year-old daughter, her niece, twin nephews were standing with the dog Maverick, petting him, while on a leash chatting about the event they were attending. She advised at one point Lily approached Maverick while they were chatting. He made a growl, yip noise, and backed away. At the same time, she started crying. Her mother, Carrie, was about 10 feet away, have a separate conversation with patrons and fellow co-workers with her back turned to them. They then moved Lily to a table and checked her face and applied tissues to her face. She then left with her mother for medical care. I received a statement from the co-worker, Tiffany Phelps. She advised that it was Saturday. She was at the event working a table with Carrie, her daughter, Lily, and Sarah. Carrie, Sarah, and her were talking to a lady who came by the table. Sarah walked behind them because of her fiance came with their dog. She explained that Carrie and her continued to talk to the lady, and then she heard Lily crying. She then turned around. Lily had blood running down her cheek. She was running away from the dog. She advised that she didn't see what happened. After a full review of both incidences, Animal Care and Control did issue a potentially dangerous order on May 3rd, 2019. On May 7th, Animal Care and Control amended the potentially dangerous order with amending number 3 of taking out the fence requirement and with keeping number 4 when out of the home restrained on a non-retractable leash with a muzzle and under control with an adult at all times. Also, animal care and control also amended number 9, the secondary barriers for the dog never got loose from the home. All the other conditions would continually remain in the order. Maverick is still in our care and custody, and Mrs. Jones has filed an appeal, and we're here today. And this is Lily's mom.
Do you wish to say anything?
I just want it to be known that we are struggling every day, not just because of Scar, but emotionally. I actually have a letter here from daycare that even the smallest little thing since bitten by the dog has caused issues to arise. She's been traumatized around any animals, all animals from the smallest creature, such as a crawling bug, to seeing a dog is terrifying of her. She was not that uneasy or anxious before the dog bit her. They are unable to take her to any park. If there is a dog, they have to leave immediately. Our family dog that she's grown around and loves, she has a difficult time being around that dog as well. It's just become a daily struggle for her, to the point now we have to put her in counseling. It's been very difficult. We've had to go to a dermatologist to treat the wound. They've changed medications for her. And if it's not healed in a month, we have to now see a plastic surgeon. And it's been a daily struggle for her, and it's very hard to deal with for us.
Understood. Anything else?
No.
Ed?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
Did you see what happened? Can you
I
explain
did
what
not.
happened?
So I was at our work table, Bay Community Health. We had a table at the event. I was talking to a lady that came up to us, and I had my back turned for a minute. Lily was next to Sarah when I had turned around to talk, and when I turned back around, it wasn't even about a minute, Lily came running to me screaming and just blood. My coworker and I picked her up, put her on the table, and it was so bad that I started to call 911. And then we're like, no, let's just get in the car, we'll probably get there faster. With my being so worked up, I couldn't drive, so we pulled over and had to call 911, where she went to the hospital by ambulance. And it was just said that they don't know what happened. But the other thing is, Lily is not one to just go up to random dogs without someone saying, let's talk first and see if we can pet the dog. We have neighbors with dogs, and again, it's the same thing. It's always like she asks first, because she does not just go up to dogs. And it's changed her a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Officer Thomas, can you explain why it's a potentially dangerous order and not a dangerous?
Well, without any, we looked at all the incidences from the first and the second.
Right.
And with understanding that, nobody really saw what occurred. However, we still had 2 injuries, and they were 2 facial injuries.
Right.
So we basically wanted to actually look at this order and what would be best suited for this case to help prevent from anything from happening again, whether he's out in public or at home. That's why we went with the potentially dangerous order, and we even modify it to, because of the fact of what the situations were, we didn't feel that number 3 was warranted. We didn't feel that number 9 was warranted. We did, however, feel that, with a muzzle requirement is best suited for this case. Understanding this is a young dog, and he obviously probably needs training. But we wanted to be able to put something in place where we didn't feel that it meet the dangerous code at that point.
Right.
Understanding that as far as Gavin is concerned, I didn't investigate that case. However, with speaking with Mrs. Prevere, I found out later that he did receive sutures. However, again, it was in a situation where nobody knew what happened. So it wasn't 100% clear whether it was a bite or a paw. So we took that into account as well when we reviewed everything to issue potentially dangerous, and then we reviewed it again based upon the information that we had that came forward to better place conditions that would be best suited for this case. And that's why we amended it again.
Okay, and the dog is still here?
Yes.
How's it doing?
He's fine. I mean, I don't judge them when they're in here. He is in an area that's very noisy, of course.
But
there's
does he
no
get walks or
complaints.
anything like that while he's
No,
here?
sir.
No, he's completely confined,
Mhm.
24/7?
Yeah.
Anything else?
So, I just, point here. So the incident with Gavin was in another county, is that correct? Did I hear you say it was in another county?
They live in Joppa.
Oh, they live in Joppa.
Yes.
So the incident happened in this county?
The incident happened here.
Okay.
Correct?
No,
Was
it
it was
happened in
it was
Joppa.
it happened in Joppa. Okay.
No.
So there's no order on this dog beforehand? There's not, there's nothing going on
No,
beforehand?
I don't
Okay.
have anything.
All right, 'cause I'm just reading this. Okay.
So first I want to start with, I do have letters that we brought from people who've interacted with Maverick through the life that we've had him. We purchased him from a breeder when he was a couple months old. And when we purchased him, we got him for his docile nature. He is a very loving and he just wants love. And with the incident with Gavin, you know, he's only 10 months old and he jumped up. And unfortunately, Christina wishes she could be here today. She had family matters. She was intending to come. So she didn't provide a statement today, which I can always turn over to you at another time. Maverick has never truly really been aggressive towards anyone. He is more afraid of his own shadow than anything else. He'd rather just lay around and lick and nuzzle you. And we've had him in numerous situations at various functions and other people's homes, around all manner of people. One of the kids that was present with Lily's is my 6-year-old nephew, Max, who is a nonverbal autistic boy. He has no way to communicate with us whatsoever, and he has no fear of him whatsoever. And Maverick is a rather large dog. Unfortunately, he's rather large, but he's not one to lash out at anyone. I have a 4-year-old, and she is a handful at best, and she tempers with him very well. His demeanor helps temper her. I also have a 9-year-old pit bull who is extremely attached to him. They're all very tight-knit and close, and they don't really, it's hard to explain. They're very together. They all make each other whole. You know, with Maverick, he listens really well. He doesn't run off. He doesn't approach people without us. He's more like a frightened child, and he is under 2. We have no issues getting him any kind of formal training or neutering him or...
All you do the muzzle and stuff, but we're fencing in the backyard, so it's...
We are doing that, even though none of these incidences were him breaking free. You know, nobody really saw what happened. Unfortunately, it's a very unfortunate thing. With Lily, she did fall backwards because I looked up when I heard the noise and I saw her fall backwards, and I don't know if he lashed out at her, but I know he was backing away and hiding behind my fiance, Chris, because he doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't gravitate towards that. He has no issues with loud noise. I mean, he has no issues with children. He's around them all day, every day. I've never seen him act aggressively. Anybody that's been around him has never seen him act aggressively. You know, this is not standard. These are just 2 freak accidents, that one of them which was just a typical puppy jumping up to play. And that was with Gavin. He was not only 10 months old at the time, and Gavin has told his mother profusely that he just turned around and he jumped up at him because he wanted to play. There was no malicious nature. Gavin has no trauma or history from the event, even though he did get stitches. He was later in December mauled by a pit bull unrelated to us in this county, which is something he does have an issue with. And when I say mauled, I mean he's had extensive plastic surgery, but he has no issues with Maverick whatsoever. So it just begs to question what exactly happened. Did maybe she grabbed his face and we didn't see it and he reacted inevitably? Did maybe he moved towards her and she fell backwards and the entirety of the thing scared her so much? We're not really sure. No one witnessed what happened. Did you want me to pass these letters out to everybody, or? do you review?
What are you asking the commission to do in
So-
relation to the PDO?
With the order, we're okay with neutering him and chipping him. We'd planned on doing that. You know, we don't mind paying the licensing fee. We already keep him on a leash when we take him out in public, a 6-foot leash. We don't feel that he needs to be muzzled because this is a very freak incident. I mean, the one in Gavin's home was, again, he was a puppy, he jumped up, that happened. But this specific incident with Lily, we're not even sure what warranted it. You know, we don't mind doing the training, but some of the other fees, the insurance part of the order, that would leave us financially destitute. I make a very minimal wage as a medical assistant. My husband just opened his own business 2 years ago. So financially speaking, it's a lot to entail. And part of the order stated that, you know, we wouldn't necessarily, we would have to seek permission for him to go somewhere if we wanted to go on vacation or something, for like a temporary placement. And one of the witnesses we have here who keeps Maverick for us when we do go on vacation, you know, that would, it adds a whole lot of extra stress, you know. Part of the order stated that at any time someone could come by and evaluate our situation, and for us it's kind of an invasion of privacy. I mean, we want to be in our own home without people coming in. You know, he keeps his business completely separate, so his customers don't come to our house. We don't have a ton of people over our house because we want our home area to be private. We just prefer it that way. I mean, we currently live with my parents. My father is disabled. He's been in a wheelchair. He's had one leg my entire life. He's currently resides in a wheelchair. He can no longer use his remaining appendage to walk, which is part of the reason I asked for the amendment towards the gate enclosure, because it would be a hazard to him to try to even leave the home. So we rent from them to help them make ends meet in this tough financial economy that we're in. And when we go to buy a house, some of that insurance would truly affect our homeowner's insurance.
How much, have you checked into it?
We looked. So one of the policies I looked at was like 10 grand a year alone, just for the $300,000 policy. And that was like the bottom of the pool. And because we don't have homeowners insurance, because we rent from our parents. So in the event that we had a home and we had homeowners insurance, it would go through that. But it would make the rates go up. And that I couldn't get a fine tune on because we don't own a home. And overall, I mean, do you have anything you want to say?
I don't know. I don't do public speaking that well. I'm just kind of nervous with it. But,
What kind of training has this dog been through?
So he hasn't done any formal training. We've trained him. I mean, as I said before, I do have a 9-year-old pit bull, and as we know, pit bulls have a bad name for themselves, and she is a very docile. This dog would dump in front of a bus, and I've worked with him the same way I worked with her because they're both very stubborn breeds. They can have a tendency to be very bullheaded when you try to train them. We do a lot of reward and as opposed to negative reinforcement, because I know when you do the negative reinforcement in training, it doesn't necessarily have the desired effect that you want. He's a pretty lazy dog at home. He won't even bring the ball back to you when you throw it to him. He just wants to lay down and chew on it. When he goes to climb up onto the couch, he won't jump on the couch. He literally puts his legs on the couch and drags himself onto it. And I don't know if it's his size or if he's just that lazy, but I mean, he lays down to eat and drink out of his food bowl. And my pit bull has a tendency to be food aggressive, but they eat side by side. And like I said, she's 9. Well, she's almost 9. She'll be 9 in August, but still.
Yeah. I guess where I'm struggling is you can't afford the insurance premium, okay? But yet at the same time, you don't want to put a muzzle on them
I don't mind
after
the
you've.
muzzle, 'cause I probably won't take you out in public anymore.
But I'm saying you said you don't want you want that requirement changed.
The muzzle, like I said, I don't mind putting a muzzle on him if we do take him out. If we have to do that, that's fine.
Because as you know, by your own admission, we've got 2 freaks of nature here that have occurred. What's to prevent the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th?
Sure.
And you again don't want to get the insurance and didn't want the muzzle. So I'm.
And the other thing I have a question. I mean, you've admitted that this dog is kind of skittish. I mean, why have this dog out at a function like this when you have a dog that's fairly skittish around people? It sounds like he's not exactly like, you know, it's something that as much as a little 3-year-old girl could scare him to either react or something like that. I mean,
Typically, he's not necessarily skittish around people. It's mainly like if we were at home and he was alone and somebody walked up on him, he'd be a little shocked.
He's actually skittish with cars.
Yeah.
Because he was struck by a car when he was
about a year ago, he was struck by a car.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's something that, we were at a car show, so.
But around people, I mean, we did provide multiple statements around others that have been around him, especially with their young children.
Yeah.
Where he's never, and when I'm talking young children, I'm talking about kids that pull on tails, that pull on ears, that are, I mean, everybody knows what a young child does. They're still learning their boundaries as well as everyone else's. You know, regardless of what we tell them, they're still gonna push the envelope.
I'm more or less on your side right now in my thought pattern. In that we all know how, as you were getting ready to say, how 3-year-olds, how they conduct themselves in the presence of a dog. They love animals, and they get right down on the floor and lick them in the face, and there's absolutely no fear. We all know that. Do I blame the 3-year-old? Not yet, but the mom, somewhat. Mom did not know the whereabouts of her 3-year-old. Now let's face it, it is what it is. The mom turned her back on her 3-year-old in a crowded situation with a dog or dogs running around. You cannot do this. We know that, and I know she's not going to do it anymore. I know how touched she is, and I know how, we're blaming the dog. We need to go to the source. And the source is the mom. The source, even for, I think it was 2 incidents, the other incident, same difference. 4-year-old, they all get on the floor, they roll, the pictures look good. Yeah, the dogs, they love their at-home young people, but when you get out with a dog, even if you had given permission for this young child to pet the dog, it still is mom's responsibility, someone's adult's responsibility to monitor what's going on, because dogs don't know. I mean, people know. Let's don't forget that. That's my intake right now, and I want to hold my thoughts and let someone else speak. I just don't want to label the dog as a bad. I don't see where the dog is bad at all. I mean, the dog might do it again. If you put a 1-2-year-old child or even 10-year-old child in the presence of the dog, how is it going to be any difference? Now for the rest of the dog's life, we're going to put a muzzle on the dog, or we're going to do something that's negative towards the lifespan of the dog. We need to give that some thought. And that's not being personal. That's not even taking your side. I'm taking the side of the dog, for now. Anyway, that's me for now.
Can I say something?
Nothing. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
go ahead.
So I understand where you're coming from. Lily has grown up with dogs. She is not one to just randomly go up to a dog. Yes, I had my back turned, but I had asked Sarah to watch her for a minute so I could talk to this person. Yes, I do feel bad that I turned my back for just a minute, but again, Lily will not just walk up to any dog without us giving her or the owner permission to go up to the dog.
But apparently she did that time, ma'am.
Officer
I'd like to
Downs?
say something.
Okay.
And this is not pointing fingers here
No,
at either
no.
party, okay? But, I'm gonna give you it in a professional sense now, all right?
Please.
So, understanding that, he's a young dog, and understanding that this is a 3-year-old child, understanding that Gavin was young also, okay? And we don't necessarily know what happened to Gavin, but it was a substantial injury, whether it's bite or paw still, for them to stitch it, okay? What the concern is here is that it's not saying that, they're being bad owners or she's being a bad mom, okay? We understand that children will walk up to dogs and the first thing they want to do is hug and kiss and everything. We totally understand that. And maybe Lily was brought up around dogs and to learn. Things happen in a split second. We know that. You know this because you see the cases that I bring for you and stuff every month. The concern is that I understand they don't want the muzzle, and understand that Christopher said that they don't have mind for the muzzle, okay? It sounds to me that, they want to comply with some things and understanding that the dog is still learning. But we're the voice of the dog. So if they weren't paying attention to the dog and understanding that mom here was not necessarily watching her child, so now we have 2 evils, right? So how do we correct it? And that is the purpose for us here today, is how do we correct it? It's more or less understanding that, he needs the training he needs, obviously, because he is a young dog, okay? Could this happen again? Absolutely. You said it yourself, okay? So it is our jobs to be the voice of reason. We basically, dogs are pack animals, so they learn from their pack. They're their pack, they're training their animal, they're making sure they don't put their animal in situations for it to fail, right? We don't want the dog to fail either, okay? And understanding that she's having a hard time. Lily is going through a really, really rough time. And children under the age from 10 and below, it's a proven statistical fact that they go through PTSD. Some of it's worse than others, okay? And this child's having a hard time to cope, okay? It's dramatic for a 3-year-old, okay? And I'm sure it's dramatic for a 5 or 6 or 10-year-old. So animal care and control basically looked at this case. We made effort to change, okay? We made efforts to change the order that would be best suited, okay? Not necessarily, pointing fingers and saying that, they're bad dog owners or what has happened here, okay? But we do have to protect the public, regardless. So whatever your decision is made today, I'm basically just advising you in a professional sense, 19 years of doing this and seeing all different types of children bites and scratches and injuries, some worse than others. We have to be the voice of reason. We have to basically, including even our responsible dog owners, we have to make the choices for our dogs and for our pets so that we do not have the dog to fail. Animal control is going to stay with their decision. It's going to basically be up to your decision on what you want to do. I think that was appropriate. We amended it. We looked at it, and we normally don't do that, okay? But in this case particularly, we did, because we basically reviewed everything. And again, like I want to say is, as far as like with Gavin, and I understand his mom wasn't here, and I talked to her in length. I talked to her about the prior incident that child went through. We didn't have it on record. So understanding what he went through, but still, it was still a substantial injury for them to stitch it, okay? So again, he was in a situation where there was no supervision, and I get it, and understanding this point here, but we had a public event. So obviously that both parties should have been watching, and we know that. Especially when you have a dog in an event, dogs go through different types of emotions when you're dealing with an event, especially a lot of people. I understand this is a car show going on, so there's revving of engines or whatever the case may be is happening. So again, we need to be the voice of reason, what's going to be best suited for the dog.
Thank you.
Can I touch on what you said?
Yes, go ahead.
So, I've grown up in the medical field my entire life. I am a medical assistant. I've had severe trauma from things non-related to dog bites, and I can tell you from personal experience and from everything that I've seen, that trauma comes twofold. For young children, not only does the event that happens, but the parent's reaction to the event that happens. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it with your own children where when they fall and scrape their knee, how do you react? If you react negatively, what do they continue to do? And I'm not necessarily, I feel terrible what happened to Lily, I do. I coming from a person that knows real trauma, physical real trauma, I understand that, like, it's not an easy event and I feel terrible about it, but at the same point in time, I also know what happens when you react negatively to a situation and it just impacts those feelings. And it really solidifies home. And I don't necessarily, I think with time and effort, and yes, PTSD does exist for children. I do have it. I have a substantial fear of heights from an injury that I had. But with time and help accordingly and realizing, and not only that, but with how you react to a situation with your child.
Wait, let's stop right here. Okay, we're not here to talk about her child. We're here to talk about the dog, okay? PTSD aside, everything else aside, this is all about the dog and what happened with the dog. Regardless how she treated her child after, or what is moving forward. We don't need to hear about, I don't even understand where you're trying to go with this. How does this have anything to do with what happened?
I would just,
You're talking to what's after the fact, what's happening, correct? You're speaking to how she's dealing with her child after the fact.
correct.
That's not what we're
Because-
talking about here. We are talking about the dog. I don't think it's fair to sit here and tell her that she's doing something wrong with how she's reacting to her child after the fact. Okay, I understand you're agreeing with her and you've seen both sides.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I wasn't trying to imply that what she's doing is necessarily wrong, or that her parenting is.
I'm not trying to say that you're trying to imply that either. I'm just saying that it has no bearing. What she's doing after the fact, after this incident, has nothing to do with this.
Understood. So the same thing.
Can I speak? I'm speaking to what she just said. Lily's my grandbaby. And look, she does overact a little bit, but Lily does not go to dogs. She does not do this. She's overacting. It's nothing to do with what she's doing. And I'm really upset the way she just talked about this. And it's not fair.
That's why I tried to take it off the record. We don't need to go on with
Lily
this anymore. I understand
is
what you're trying to say.
traumatized, like, because what happened to the event. It's not traumatized what anybody else is doing.
Okay. We get it. And that's why I tried.
I do greatly apologize for that. I'm sorry if it came off that. I do greatly apologize for that.
My concern right now is that it's been made perfectly clear that in both cases, it's somewhat of an unknown as to whether the child provoked it, whether the dog got poked in the eye. I mean, who knows what happened, but we have 2 injured children. What surprises me would be, since you didn't know at the first case what provoked the dog, why you would even consider bringing the dog into public where it was in a situation similar to the past one that you can't explain. Why you do that is mind-boggling to me.
This dog actually rode with me everywhere, every day for the first year of its life.
Right.
Literally. I couldn't leave it. I didn't want to leave it at home because our father's disabled, so I couldn't really potty train the dog. You couldn't really let it out. And like I said, it went everywhere with us. Went to work with me, went on boats with me. I own a marine company. It was around at marinas. Like I never really had an issue with it. And when it got too big, when it got around 80, 90 pounds, I just couldn't keep him in the truck anymore. It got too hot, and I just couldn't take a chance on it. So, but then I started leaving him at home. But that's, like I said, he was out in public every day for the first year of his life. And then, I don't know, the last 6 months we've been, keeping him at home, but, we've never had an issue with him at home either, but.
I mean, we do work on socializing him because it's a big thing for younger dogs. You socialize them with other dogs, with other people. That's something I've been told numerous times throughout my years of owning dogs. And, we took him to our 4th of July parade, the local 4th of July parade this past 4th of July, surrounded by lots of people, loud cars, kids, the whole 9 yards, and no issues whatsoever. We've had him at other family functions and other events just to make sure that he is socialized, that he is around these things, because we don't want to impound a negative temperament in him. We want him to be aware of these situations.
Yeah, I understand. I guess my concern is that we've had 2 incidences that are unexplained, and both people, they didn't get bit in the arm or they got bit in the face, both of them, and that's...
Potentially scratched. We understand that the one was potentially a scratch.
Right, but in the face. That's disconcerting to me, because that usually indicates intent on the part of the animal, regardless of what provoked it.
Right.
So, any other, before we deliberate?
Would you like to say anything, guys?
I have a question.
Elizabeth.
Let's see. The conditions on the order, let me clarify, what you're asking for, just specifically the insurance and the muzzle, those 2? Is that-
The muzzle, I don't mind. Like I said,
Okay.
I probably won't be bringing him out anymore if I do get him back. It's just the house situation. We are fencing in the yard. We were going to do that anyway. We actually already bought the stuff to do it. Because of our Arundel pit bull actually sits on a run, and she actually has to jump off the handicap ramp, and she's getting too old to do that. So we're just going to fence in the yard to where she
Okay.
doesn't have to be on the run anymore. And but as far as inside the house, we can't really, I can't really do much with that. It's, her father's handicapped. So.
You're talking about the secondary barriers?
Yeah, the secondary
Okay.
barriers.
Which was amended.
That's already been amended,
Which
yeah.
was
It was
amended. That was the
amended, yeah.
reasoning.
So that's
that was
not-
our request.
that's not
Like I
for
said,
today.
the insurance policy.
Yeah.
I
So-
spend almost $15,000 a year in commercial insurance, and just another 10 I wouldn't be able to do it.
So really, we're just talking about the insurance. We're talking
Insurance, and yeah, I mean, like I
about
said.
number 5
Yeah.
of the order.
When we also, the whole temporary placement, I mean, we have a witness here that we do go on vacation every once in a rare while, maybe once a year for a weekend, where we do leave him with someone instead of putting him in a kennel in that kind of situation and having to meet, different requirements, having people come after our home. We just don't like the people invading our privacy. It's-
Temporary or permanent relocation.
It's not a condition.
Right.
It wasn't, I thought it was marked as a condition on there.
You talking about the periodic inspections?
Yes.
Did you get some actual quotes, though, for this insurance?
I didn't print them out. Yes, I went online. I did go online and look it up. I didn't print them out. I should have printed them out. That's hindsight now. We did seek legal counsel. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here, and it was too little too late when
And
it didn't.
the intent of the legal counsel
It's
was
supposed
to
to
what?
say May instead of.
To have someone come to speak for us. We're not very good at speaking.
We changed it.
Okay, I guess I'm just puzzled by the quote of $10,000. That just seems outrageous to me, because I used to, I worked in a fleet department years ago at a company where we reimbursed employees for use of their privately owned vehicles in the course of working for our business. And we required every one of those people to have a $300,000 liability in case they ran over somebody or like that. And their insurance rates were no more than $400 or $500 every 6 months. I don't understand how $300,000 liability for hitting somebody with a car versus $300,000 liability being $10,000 for a dog bite.
What I looked at was, I guess it was, if there's a difference between, car insurance and dog, like animal insurance is what I was looking at.
Right.
And insurance for that.
Like my liability insurance is like $3,000 a year, but my workman's comp insurance for personal injury is almost $7,000 a year. That's why, and of course, then still got my vehicle insurance, but like I said, it's going from personal property to actual insuring somebody for like, workman's comp or something, if they get injured, it's a totally different ballgame.
If I could clarify one thing, I know we've already discussed it, but I just want to make sure it's crystal clear. When you talk about going on vacation, are you talking about this last little paragraph on the back of the order that says any temporary or permanent
Yes.
relocation of the animal within Anne Arundel County must be pre-approved pending a full inspection?
Right,
And
yeah.
Officer Thomas, what was your clarification on that?
So I thought she was referring to the periodic inspection.
Well, that was also part of it, yes.
Right, and it actually should say may and not will.
In the inspection part?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as the permanent relocation is in temporary, so I guess what she's saying is that, so give you an example, is that we have, other order dogs in the county where they go on vacation and they put their dogs in boarding. They basically advising that we should be contacted in the event that that occurs. And the reasoning for that is if something would happen out of jurisdiction, whether it's out of county, whether it's out of state, we're already fully aware that the dog
Is there.
went there and it was there. So they're not in violation of this order until we obviously find out what happened, okay? Another reason for that being there, so that if they would to move, if there is a temporary relocation of the dog to, a necessary vacation, but somewhere else, obviously the part where it says it's in for boarding, it's understanding the status of the dog. So that way, if something would happen, we're already fully aware of that, okay? It's not trying to, cause where there's no privacy. This with all of our orders. And then, like I said, we have people that have orders on their dogs that go on vacation, and the boarding facilities are fully aware. They have copies of the order. I have some where their family member comes and takes care of the animal, and they still let me know. They just send me an email what's going on and how long.
So if they were their friend that's been watching the dog, if the dog would go to their friend's house, I think, if I'm not misunderstanding you, your problem would be having someone come to your house to watch your dog. That's where you're part of the
Yeah.
invasion of privacy. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So, you understand, that's why I think it's part of the invasion of privacy. It isn't you guys, well, maybe it is the inspection process also, but she's saying that if they go on vacation, they would not want someone to come to their house to watch the dog. So would her
Well, it's
dog-
not required for her to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is her dog could go to this other person's house still, as long as you were, regardless
You
if
still
they're.
have to be notified.
You have to be notified, but the other person doesn't have to have all these requirements in place for that to happen for a short term, correct?
Well, they should be in compliance or following some compliance of this order. Now, I know it's easier for a boarding facility because,
Because
they
they have all
have
this
kennels and
stuff,
stuff.
right.
The only one is where I have one out of state that comes here with their parents, and the parents watch the dog for months at a time because of his business trips. Now, they came in full compliance with the order. Okay? But, I mean, if somebody is watching her animal, they should have some kind of compliance at their property, just so that we just don't have another incident. I mean, obviously, if you're having a muzzle requirement, they should be walking the dog with a muzzle on.
Right.
you know.
I was thinking more like the fencing requirement and things like that. In this
We
case,
don't
we're
have
not doing
that in
this.
here,
Right,
so
you're
it
right,
wouldn't
so
be
that's true.
applying for
That's
the
true.
other person.
So really, it would just be like the muzzle requirement would be the only kind of hardship on someone else that was watching the dog. Okay.
Officer Thomas, we hear a lot of these cases where the requirement for the insurance, the $300,000 worth of liability insurance is in place. You obviously have to verify that they get that before we return the dog, correct?
Right, they actually will, I'll usually either hear directly from the insurance agent.
Right.
Or they send over their declaration page.
Have
which
you had an
basically-
opportunity to see what kind of premiums these people are paying for that?
I didn't really look into that.
Because I would
mean,
think if it's got a
I've never had
$10,000
anybody tell me that it was expensive.
Yeah, that's my whole point,
Yeah.
is this is not a dangerous dog order, this is a potentially dangerous. So, somebody that's facing a $10,000 insurance bill hike is gonna tell you about that. I mean, we would have seen that before in all the years we've been on this panel here.
Right, and most of your homeowners insurance policies, unless it's a really older home, most of the liabilities are already under the $300,000 level. They
Right.
just have to make sure through the agent
Correct.
that, in that policy, because it is quite large,
Yes.
that the policy basically advises that it will obviously take care of damages of what their
Right.
dog would do.
Exactly.
And a lot of times it's already there, they just don't see it. So I usually try to tell my
Right.
folks, you need to talk to the agent,
Right.
because the agent can actually break everything down for you.
Right.
But most homeowners insurances usually will already, take care of that.
Exactly, in case somebody slips on the sidewalk on ice, that kind of stuff, and sues you,
Right.
You're
And it
absolutely
usually will
right.
say, whether, if they're telling them that they have a dog, some insurance policies now have a list of breeds that they won't.
Right.
But it's more or less to protect, the victims from bites.
Right.
And sometimes it's already there in the insurance policy, they just have to consult with their agent to find it. Because like I said, it's a very, very large policy.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would agree with you
Most of them
100%.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
In many cases, you're covered, you just don't know it. Do you have anything more to add before we deliberate? Okay,
We can still, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
124403B, conditions 11 and 12.
Okay, are you looking at the code?
Yeah.
Which ones are you looking at?
The behavioral assessment and specialized training.
That can be added, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I just didn't know if we considered it.
It's a condition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right out of the county code. I mean, it was added in December.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out, it's
I mean, they have
never
to
a
understand.
win-win, and it's always a lose-lose situation, just trying to prevent something from happening in the
Right.
future, whereas taking into consideration the age of the dog and the incidents were
Right, but-
unsupervised by everybody. We all
Okay.
agreed to that. So that's all I was thinking about, was some replacements for some of the other conditions.
Fine. Are we ready to, anything else before we deliberate? Okay. My feelings are right now is I don't believe that premium is $10,000. And you haven't got quotes to present to us to reflect that. My personal feeling is I'd like to postpone this for 30 days and have her come back with legitimate quotes that provide, a premium price for that $300,000 liability, and you may find you already have that in your homeowner's insurance. I'd hate to waive something with a dog that has demonstrated 2 bites, potential bites, in the past, without knowing that.
We don't actually have homeowners insurance because we are renting from my parents.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I'd like to get see that insurance quote that shows that that premium is $10,000 a year. I'm incredulous. We hear a lot of cases, and you're the first person to come in and ever quote a number anywhere near that. So that's my personal opinion, is until I'm not ready to waive that insurance premium quote, because you haven't got anything to prove that it is in fact anywhere near that amount of money.
I just want to add, you can get renters insurance, and when you apply for renters insurance, you might ask them about your pet. Of course, wherever you reside in, the owner of the unit, they should be aware of the fact that you have a pet.
Well, it's my parents' basement.
Well,
That's,
okay, well, you know what, I guess you still could get renter's insurance for the
Sure.
the aspect of the house that you're living in.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Yes.
So you just inquire and find out if you can get pet owners insurance and what it's gonna cost. That will help us out a little bit, because we don't wanna make a decision that's, because there are A, B, C, D guidelines, and we follow them to a T, and of course, we have to do that, you know, no matter how I feel personally. We have our guidelines, so we want to get it right.
Well, what I'd like to say, I'm fine with putting at least the decision on the insurance till next month, but I'd kind of like to discuss at least the rest of the merits of the case while it's all fresh and we're all here right now to do
Well, that's
it.
the only thing they're challenging. Everything else is in place. They agreed to the muzzle, so there's no challenge to anything but the insurance.
Okay.
So,
My only other thought is, if we could, because we'd have to do this officially, take a break, consult with the county attorney on that $300,000 number, and perhaps if we're allowed to do it, lower it in an attempt to help them out. I don't know. That's an alternative. I don't know if we have the right to play with that number, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think so, and I say that because I'm a real
you
estate
have the
sales
attorney here.
agent.
Well, we can take it.
the attorney's here.
Yeah.
Well, he can
Right.
speak right now.
Right, yeah.
I think we're
Official answer
supposed to
maybe.
take a break,
No,
though.
he's present. He can,
I would ask that we
Take-
close the session to.
A motion.
For legals.
Discuss legal
Okay.
advice.
Okay,
I make a motion then to take a break and seek legal counsel.
second that.
second, all in favor? Okay. 10-minute break. Yes,
We're back on track now.
we're back on track.
So the only thing that I basically wanted to say, and stuff, is not anything more as far as the case is concerned, is that I'm hoping that we can expedite a decision, and the reason for it is because the dog is here and I am full of
Okay.
dogs. And I really would like to, move along with a definite where we can get them in compliance if that's the route you're taking to get them out of here.
Okay.
So in an effort to expedite things, I would suggest that we, add in our recommendation, and it's just a recommendation, that we lower that number on the insurance to $100,000 rather than $300,000, and that way it's possibly cheaper for the defendants.
Would you like to
And
make
I
a
would make a
motion?
motion to that effect.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Absolutely.
So that's it. So we're only, so I understand, that's the only part. So we're gonna change number
Number 5?
5 to say 100,000 and the rest of the order stands, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then
That
yes,
would
I'm
be,
all with it.
yeah. So I would recommend that we make that change to number 5, and then the rest of the recommendation stays in place.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
This is just a recommendation to the chief of police. You will receive a